Thank you for what you've done.
I want to know about monetizing some debt. I want to know why they can sell. I want to know why they can sell T-bills and then have some third party buy them, and then have the feds come in the back door and buy them from the third party. That's destroying our money, and they're doing it every day.
The Treasury note is when the nation goes out to the general public.
We not know what it
No,
is.
but maybe nobody else knows that, huh?
I
You
think
asked me a
most people
question.
here do.
Some people clapped and were interested in your question. If it's a question, you want me to answer it. If it's not a question, it's just a statement, you can leave it at that. But I thought I heard you say, I want to know why.
That's what I want to know.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you why. It is a loan in the form of selling a treasury note. They're for different amounts of time. And so basically, someone is buying that note with a promise of a return of a fixed percentage of money, whether it's on short-term or long-term. And yes, the Fed is going to pay them back because that is the mechanism to pay them back. Somebody has got to retire that debt.
Where does the Fed get the money?
I regret to say that for the past, well, except for the 2 years that Bill Clinton was in office, the last 2 years that he was president, for all those other years of your and my lifetime, it was borrowed to some extent, and lately to a very large extent. That's what a T-note is. It's a loan on the part of the nation where they let individuals, and I believe they're done in $100,000 increments. So if you wish to buy one, you can do so.
Why does the Fed have to come in the back door after they made it public, they sold it to this party, and have the Fed come in the back door and buy it?
Because that is the mechanism to pay that bill back.
That's the mechanism coming through the back door?
Sir, if it's public knowledge, it's not back door.
It's public knowledge if you research it, sir.
No, yes, sir.
Congressman, my name is Tim Dillon. I'm retired Navy, and there's nothing to do with that.
What's your last name, sir?
I'm retired Navy.
No, your last name, sir.
It has nothing to do with the fact that I'm Navy.
No, your last name, sir.
Clement.
Clooney.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I know you've been very instrumental in trying to work with us since Katrina on multi-peril insurance, etc. Day before yesterday, I got a tremendous surprise when
And not a pleasant one, I bet you.
it wasn't pleasant. My federal flood insurance went from $246 a year to $1,203 a year. I understand you can't do this alone. You've got many other people you've got to work with, many of them who do not understand the first thing about what you're attempting to do. Could you enlighten us a little bit as to what you're working on
Sure.
and so forth?
Mr. Clooney, and I very much appreciate that because some people that wish we'd never talk about Katrina again, I for one wish it never happened, but it did happen. And a lot of people, including myself, who had been with insurance companies for many years, paid their premiums on time. When it came time to get paid by that insurance company, they said, we're not paying. And that happened to thousands of South Mississippians who had to turn around and get lawyers. For some of them, it took 18 months. For some of them, it took 2 years. For the junior college in Poplarville, they only got paid last fall by their insurance company for something in the neighborhood, between 40 and 50 million dollars on their claim. Huge money. And it took 4 years to get paid. What the core of that problem was, the insurance companies took the attitude and they had buried in their policies. It is fair to say, this is buried in the case of a typical State Farm policy. The policy is about 23 pages long. On page 10 or 11 was one paragraph that said, in effect, if any two things happen concurrently, we don't pay. They called it concurrent causation.
That's not
And
that.
yes, ma'am, it is true, and we have the slides. And please don't interrupt. What, Trent Lott, very respected attorney, President of the United States Senate, didn't know it was in his pocket. Federal Judge Lou Garola, a federal judge, didn't know it was in his policy. So fair question I ask is, if the President of the United States Senate didn't know that was buried in his policy, if a federal judge didn't know it was in his policy, pretty safe bet that the average Mississippian did not know that was in their policy. Irony of all this is, particularly the closer you got to the water where the devastation was the worst, what it basically came down to is anytime wind and water were both there, the insurance company said we don't pay. Now, I think it stands to reason that the wind was the strongest closest to the Gulf since it's coming up. We also know that they paid insurance claims all the way to Oxford, all the way to the northern end of Mississippi, 400 miles from here. They paid wind claims, and up there they paid wind claims because they couldn't blame it on the water. Down here where they could blame it on the water, they blamed it all on the water, and that was wrong for two things. Number one, typical homeowner, not every homeowner, had flood insurance and wind insurance because you don't know what's based on history. You don't know whether you can have high water or high wind or both. In this storm, we had both. So you buy both policies so you can cover your losses. The insurance companies took the attitude that if it's wind and water, we're not going to pay. Bush administration, more or less, met with them a couple weeks after the storm and said, the quote is, we're going to take a very liberal attitude towards the flood policy, which in effect was telling the insurance companies to blame it all on the water. And they did. Which is obscene because there were 4 hours of hurricane force winds on most places on the coast before the water ever got there. We actually have a clip of a nationwide agent testifying before the Mississippi Supreme Court. A judge, Bubba Pierce, asked the attorney for Nationwide if after 4 hours of hurricane force winds, if anything is left standing, what do you pay? And the answer was not one dime. You want to roll that? Because I think it's important. Okay, when you get the voice, let me know. The answer was not one dime. So, long and short of it is, people got screwed all around. Number one, the taxpayers got paid because the National Flood Insurance got stuck with all the bills. Okay. All right, you ready?
The example is 95% of the home destroyed. The flood comes in, gets the other 5%, and you know that. Is your interpretation of what sequence mean you pay zero? Yes, sir. 95% of the home was destroyed, and then we have the event, the storm surge, then you would not pay a dime. So you wouldn't pay a dime?
You wouldn't pay a dime.
Okay. Wouldn't pay a dime. And that's before the Mississippi Supreme Court. That guy is under oath. Okay? So what are we trying to do so that this doesn't happen again? Because the individual got thrown out of the wind policy unless they went to court. By the way, people got paid the day they were supposed to go to court as a rule. The insurance company settled, which tells me if they thought they'd win, they wouldn't settle. Nation got stuck with the bill. Coincidentally, and I don't think it's coincidental, National Flood Insurance lost $17 billion that year because they paid claims. Private sector collected $45 billion that year in profits because they didn't have to pay. How do you fix it? What we want to do, what I want to offer, and what we passed through the House of Representatives, is something that says you buy your flood insurance and, if you choose to, an optional wind policy, so that it doesn't matter how your house was hurt, how your house was destroyed. If you come home and it's beat to smithereens, or if it's gone, doesn't matter if the wind did it, doesn't matter if the water did it, you're going to get paid. You don't have to hire a lawyer, you don't have to hire an engineer, and you don't have to wait years. Remember, they paid most flood policies within days because that was federal money. Even though you went to the State Farm, the Allstate, the Nationwide office, they were paying a claim on the federal flood policy that money was coming out of that pocket, and by the way, they got a commission on it. So they were very anxious to pay that claim because they got a commission for doing it, and they got a commission for selling it. Second thing is there's an inherent conflict of interest. Who's the person who went and looked at your property? It was a State Farm, Allstate, Nationwide, USA agent, fill in the blank. He was someone from the private sector, and he's out there, and think about it, right? He's out there and he's got to make a determination, well, if I say the wind did it, my company pays. If I say the water did it, National Flood Insurance pays. Right in the back of his head,